This conference will now be recorded.
Morning all, Kranti here. Can you please confirm if you're able to hear me?
Yes, Kranti, we can hear you.
Great, thanks for the confirmation. So I'll wait for a couple of more minutes and we'll go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good evening, all. I hope all of you guys are doing good. Can you please confirm if you're able to hear me and able to see my screen?
Yes, we can able to hear you and we can able to see you. Screen.
Thanks, Sandesh, for the confirmation. So let's go ahead and get started without any further delay. So a warm welcome to the day one session on Azure Devops from Career IT Trainings. So are you guys excited? So all of you guys have attended the demo session. Are you guys excited for the day one?
Yep.
I know it's early morning or evening for you. Yeah, but let's have an interactive session, guys. So as part of the day one, so as we discussed in the demo session, I would be starting from the scratch, right? So we don't discuss about Azure or Azure DevOps from the day one itself. So let's complete certain basics to get familiarized with what is cloud computing, why Microsoft Azure has come into picture, a lot of other things that we're going to discuss, right? So we are going to start with cloud concepts today. So as part of the cloud concepts, let's try to understand the role of a cloud administrator or an Azure administrator in a company. So you can ask me a question as to Kranti, this course is related to Azure DevOps, so why we have to know about a role of an Azure admin? Why? Because this course will help you learn both Azure admin course as well as Azure DevOps. So without Azure admin, you cannot directly jump onto DevOps concepts and you cannot learn them. So the base for DevOps is your Azure administration related topics. So we'll now initially focus on Azure administration topics or Azure fundamentals or cloud computing fundamentals. Then we will be getting into Azure DevOps. So let's understand about the role of a cloud administrator or an Azure administrator in a company. So if I have to summarize in a single liner, how I would put across is, so a successful cloud administrator who would, let's say, complete this training, complete or crack a technical round, then a manual round. So once you get a job, right, as an Azure admin or an Azure DevOps engineer, so what exactly they do once they join a company or a project. So a successful cloud administrator would work with the end customer or the client or end user, whatever that we call it as. So they work with them and they gather the requirements, whatever the infrastructure that they wanted to go ahead and set it up. Basically, they will gather the requirements. So once they gather the requirements, they will analyze, they will suggest, they will recommend what is a solution that we have to go ahead and implement for the customer in their environment. So once we suggest and recommend, once we get into an agreement that okay, this is being signed up by the customer, we'll go ahead and implement that infrastructure in the Microsoft Azure cloud platform. And once we implement the infrastructure, it's our job to go ahead and manage and maintain throughout the life or until customer comes to us and says that guys, the project is completed, so you can stop working for me, or I mean the customer basically, right? So all in all, a successful cloud administrator will work with the customer and gather the requirements and suggest, recommend with the changes, and they implement the infrastructure in the cloud and they maintain and manage throughout the life. So this is all about a role of a cloud administrator. But what is it is for from the official theory, if you can look from the PowerPoint presentation that I shared. So it says cloud administrator manages the cloud services which span across storage, network, virtual machines, or compute A lot of other capabilities like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Azure bot services, cognitive services, media services, integration services, DevOps services, lot many services case that we have to go and manage. And a successful cloud admin should have an understanding of the information technology IT life cycle as to how it happens in a company, right? So you should not have to worry as to if you are a fresher or if you are from non-technical background. So I'll be able to explain you what is a company, how a company runs, how people will get hired, how a team would be formed for the project, how we get projects from the customer. A lot of things that we'll be discussing anyways. So if you look at the second point, so cloud admins will take the requests from the end users for the new cloud applications that have to be built. And once they get the recommendation, I mean requirements, they will suggest, they will recommend the solution that is actually required for the customer, for them to optimize the performance and to scale the infrastructure from the futuristic perspective, as well as they will monitor the utilization of CPU, RAM, network, disk, read write capacity, a lot of other monitoring capabilities. They will be going and implementing it, and they will be monitoring continuously to make sure that customer infrastructure is actually never going down. So this role basically requires communication, guys. So you should always talk with each other in the project, with the project manager, with the client. So if you are not able to initiate the conversation, probably this course is not for you for sure. So if you're an introvert, if you think that you're a reserved candidate, you only speak with your own close friends or those who are familiar with you. If that's the case, probably you have to come out of that particular well and you have to establish the communication with everybody. That's how you will be evolving in terms of how you have to make the communication once you join a company. So obviously, being a cloud admin, we have to use certain tools, correct? So without using those tools, you cannot do anything. Let's say I have some land in Hyderabad and I have, let's say, 1 crore of rupees. I want to construct a home, but I'm not a builder. What I do, I might give it to a builder to construct the home. I've already given money as an advance. So the builder should have the equipment to build the building, correct? They need to have masons, they need to have sand, cement, bricks, probably some infrastructure, equipment, a lot of things that the builder is needed in order to build the building. So without equipment, he cannot do anything, though he is having money. Correct. In the same way, being a successful cloud admin, we should use certain tools that will help us to deploy the infrastructure. So one of the tool our portal is Azure portal, and we'll also use PowerShell. We'll also use command line interface. We might have also used Terraform. We'll also use Azure Storage Explorer, a lot of other tools that we'll be going and using to make sure that we are deploying the infrastructure for the customer as and when they need it. So ultimately, a successful cloud admin should actually start with a role, and they should need to know what is an operating system. It may be Windows, Windows Server, Linux. They need to have knowledge on virtualization. Why? Because nowadays the current era is all virtualization. Without virtualization, we should not be in this cloud era now. Correct? So a lot of things from virtualization you should know. What is cloud infrastructure, storage, network, compute. A lot of components that you should actually know about it before you join a company as a cloud admin or a DevOps engineer to deploy or to help the customer to fix their solution or to come up with some innovative ideas to make sure that how we can go and solve the customer issues. So this is all about the cloud admin role. So why this role? Why? Because the initial days, at least 10 days, the initial 10 days we are going to spend on the Azure admin related activities. So that is the reason why I have gone through this particular role definition to help you guys understand once you get a job, what exactly you're going to do in a project for the customer. So any questions at this point of time before I move further? Any questions at this point of time? Guys, just unmute yourself and say that Kranti, I'm good, we can move on. Kranti, have this question, can you please clarify? But I hate silence.
Very good, Kranti.
Thanks. So let's move on. So today we are gonna also learn about the evolution of cloud computing. Correct. Nowadays we might be hearing cloud computing, Microsoft Azure, or any other cloud service provider like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, Alibaba Cloud, HP Cloud. You have IBM Cloud, a lot of Oracle Cloud infrastructure. You have a lot of cloud vendors in the market. So how come they were able to come into the market with a new product called cloud computing? Why? Because it's all due to the virtualization technology that we have. But since we are going to learn the cloud computing into a deeper thing, so we need to understand how the cloud computing has actually evolved, right? So if my kids are asking, uh, hey dad, what is this phone that you're using? What exactly we can do with this? So I'll tell them that there's an artificial intelligence mobile phones that we are currently using, but in 1960s or 70s, 80s, 90s, right? I mean, we used to, I mean, it's like landline era, correct? So we used to have landline phones. Then we might have come up with pages to send messages. Then the basic feature phones with a keypad and a small screen. So we might be in E era, the first generation era. Then we have come to the 2G, second generation, where we have the basic smartphones again with the keypad and a screen. Then we have come up with the basic smartphones, the full screen touch mobiles we have come up with, right, with small configurations like let's say 1 GB RAM, let's say 6 GB of storage. Then it has evolved to let's say 2 GB, then 32 GB of storage, then now to 64 GB storage and 128. Even certain companies like Apple, they are even providing 1 terabyte of storage in the mobile. So if you ask, is it required? It all depends on what is your usage, correct? So if somebody asks asking, we need to tell the history as to how we have started communicating with each other, right, using landlines. And now we are in a artificial intelligence mobile era, right? And in the next 5 years, probably not every working professional might use a laptop. So we might end up using only mobile phone and we can manage everything in the next 5 years. Who knows about it? But we have to forecast the things, correct? So in the same way, if somebody asks you how the cloud computing has actually started, so this is a story that we might have to tell them whatever that you are looking at on the screen. So let's talk about the evolution first, right? So let's assume we are going to learn what Microsoft Azure Devops. So obviously Azure Devops we are going to learn and it belongs to Microsoft. So who is Microsoft? It's the topmost product-based company in the world. So it has been into multiple products like operating systems, your Windows Vista, XP, let's say Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, Windows 11, and it has also been into server operating systems, Windows Server. Let's say nowadays it is 2022 that is going on. Then it is into SQL Server database as well. It is into PowerShell scripting tool. Then you have Power BI, Power Apps and Flow, Power Platform. You have .NET technologies like .NET, ASP.NET, C Sharp, C++. You have a lot of other tools, technologies, softwares that Microsoft has developed. And they have been into the cloud computing era in the year of 2010, right? 2010, they have been invested to get into cloud computing, and it's been 12 years now. Microsoft Azure been in the market and it is standing number one when you compare with any other cloud service provider in the market. like Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, or Alibaba Cloud. So these are the topmost market holders in the world, correct? So now we will understand the evolution. So obviously Microsoft might have started its company in which year? Can anybody let me know? In which year Microsoft might have started its company? Bill Gates. Any idea?
1970s.
Yes, 1970s Microsoft has started its company. So don't you think for a company there is a need of a website? Why we need a website for a company? Or nowadays everybody is coming up with their own blog sites or websites, correct? Let's say especially in the FMCG or food related industries, for every bakery, for every coffee shop, for every restaurant, people are coming up with websites, correct? Why there is a need of a website nowadays?
uh, to get close to the people.
Yes, to market themselves, to
Branding.
get into the market, branding.
Brand.
Good. All right. So popularity, right?
And nowadays, it's been into the technology, so everyone is using technology. So if it's in websites, it would be better than the paper things.
Yes, to help grow their business, to get into the people by selling products online, correct? A lot of things. So 1970s, so Microsoft has established its companies, correct? And they definitely need a website to project themselves in the market. That okay, we are into this business, you can purchase things online, or you can look at the products online, the description, what are the advantages of the product, a lot of things, correct? They can even sell operating systems, licenses, or product keys, or they can even sell, I mean, license from all the products that they might have developed. A lot of things that they can do. So the story that I wanted to convey today is the story that I wanted to convey today is related to the on-premises environment. Let's assume this is Microsoft company, or uh, the organization, or let's say Bill Gates itself, who is the founder of Microsoft. So they wanted to host a website, or they wanted to create a machine. Okay, so what they needed in 1960s, I'm talking about 60s or 70s or 80s, whatever that you. So if they wanted to have a website created for their company and to host it, what they need? They need a server hardware, correct? So in 70s, we don't have internet communication much, right? So what the respective company used to do is they used to make a request with the vendor who manufactures the server hardware. May I know who are the vendors in the market who will be manufacturing the server hardware?
IBM.
Yes. Any other company? So you have a hell lot of companies like HP, Hitachi, Western Digital, Seagate, Toshiba. Lot of companies, Dell, right? Lot of companies who manufactures the server hardware. So can somebody let me know what is the composition, what constitute this server? So my laptop is also a server, correct? That's how I was able to install GoToMeeting software and I was able to connect to you. So a server would be having what? CPUs, central processing units. It has RAM, random access memory. It has some storage, and ultimately we have to connect through internet. Then only we'll be able to communicate in the GoToMeeting calls. Correct. So this server, Microsoft need it, or any other company that you talk about. Why they need this? To host their website or database, whatever it is. So the company used to send a request to the manufacturers who manufactures the server hardware. So do you think in 70s they used to deliver overnight?
No.
No, they took 1 week, 10 days as well. So there is a huge delay to to get this server into their data center of the company or in their office premises. So we call this as on-premises environment. So on-premises is nothing but the physical server hardware where I can touch, where I can feel, which was present in my company premises where I might have hosted applications, databases. So earlier days, this server hardware used to buy with upfront cost. So if this server is costing 2 lakhs, yes, the company or the individual has to give 2 lakhs to the vendor and they have to purchase it. There is no discounts, there is no EMI or no cost EMI available guys that time, correct? So once the server has got from the manufacturer to the company, so this guy has to hire a developer, a IT support engineer or a data center engineer to make sure that the developer develops the website, the code, the programming language, and probably the IT support engineer will help deploy or install that website on top of the server. And this should have what? Internet connectivity. Then only people like us will be able to access from the browser. Correct? So that is how used to happen, and we used to call this as dedicated server. Why? Because it's only one company is going to use the server, no other third party individual. So this is very expensive. Why? Because it's a physical server hardware. We bought it with upfront cost. And for this, we have to do a lot of maintenance. What is maintenance? Let's say if I bought a new car today, can I roam like crazy without giving it for general maintenance after it is crossing, let's say, 2000 kilometers or within the 1 month? Don't you think I have to give my car or submit my car to the showroom to have it general maintenance like oil change, engine checkup, battery checkup, interiors clean? So what happens if I don't give it for maintenance and I'm just roaming like crazy? What is going to happen to my car? Yes, let's have an interactive session.
Well, it will cause some. It will pose issues, and it might reduce the. Uh,
Okay. So it won't give you the life, the same kind of mileage. I'm not able to get it. Probably it might have impact on the engine. A lot of things can happen, correct? So this server is also dedicated to us. This is owning by this company. So don't you think on this server we might install operating systems like Windows or Linux, correct? And we have to update operating systems. And probably this server is from Dell or HP. Don't you think we have to update with security patches or firmware upgrades from the service provider? So we have to upgrade everything. So when something is going wrong with this server, will you be able to access the website which we have hosted? Let's say server got faulty, server has failed, server got corrupted. Will you be able to access this website? No, we won't be.
no.
So who will fix this server then if the server got corrupted? Who has to go ahead and fix it? So it's our job to go and fix it from the company, correct? So if still we are not able to fix it, then we have to raise a ticket with, let's say, Dell or HP. So the service engineer from Dell or HP will be coming down and they would be helping us fixing the server. Let's say if they are also not able to fix it up, if this server is still in warranty, obviously they will take back this to their company and they will replace the server. But replacement will happen overnight. It will again take a lot of days. Why? Because we are in 1970s, correct? So ultimately, this server we bought with some lakhs of rupees with upfront cost, no discounts, no EMI options. If something happens to this server, it's our responsibility to go ahead and take it up. And we will be able to only build only one machine out of this server. That's where we are calling this first era as dedicated server era. So in the next era, let's say in 90s, what has happened? Obviously, people are growing up, people have started using the technology. So somebody might have come up with something called virtualization software. Obviously, human beings are so innovative, correct? So they always come up with something that is very helpful for us. So what they did, they come up with this virtualization software. So the same customer, same organization, same company is buying the server hardware from the vendor. Once they receive the server hardware to their company, they used to install a virtualization technology, virtualization software. So what that software will do, that software will split the components. Let's say this server is having a capacity of 4 GB RAM, 4 CPUs, let's say 100 GB hard disk. So since they have installed virtualization on top of this, what they can do, they can split the hardware and they can create 4 machines instead of one machine. So what is the configuration of each and every machine or website? This machine is having one CPU, 1 gigabyte of RAM, and let's say 25 GB of hard disk. In the same way, the other machines also having the same configuration. So what is helping us here to split this big hardware configuration into smaller chunks? Virtualization software. So here also we used to buy the server hardware upfront and we used to keep this in our office. So these are all physical devices where we can touch, where we can feel it. So this era we call it as virtual private server era. So using one physical server, we can create multiple machines. And in the third era, now you see we have multiple customers, not only just one customer or one organization or one entity or one company. We have multiple customers. Now they are going and taking this server on rent. Guys, the terminology has changed now here in this era. In the shared hosting era, the terminology has changed. Earlier, we used to buy the server, but here we are taking this server on rent. So, who are the shared hosting providers in the market? Can somebody tell me an example? Shared hosting providers in the market. GoDaddy. What is GoDaddy? Can somebody let me know?
GoDaddy is where you build your own website and host
Yes, you
it
buy
there.
your domain,
And
you can host your website, correct? And what is the cost, Vishnu, that we have to pay on monthly basis on GoDaddy?
I think it's
Very,
$20, I believe. Very cheap. It's
very
$20 or
cheap. I
$10.
mean, yes, if I have to tell in Indian rupees, probably 120 rupees, which is not even $2, $1.5, I believe, correct, to host a website, to host a sample with basic hardware configuration website you will be getting in GoDaddy. So here I'm not buying the server hardware. Why? Because server hardware, if I have to buy, I need to have lakhs of rupees. So what a company, one of the individual has come up with a thought process that why don't I buy huge server hardware? Let's say 1000 GB RAM, let's say some 50 terabyte storage, let's say some 200 CPUs. Why don't I buy them? And why don't I encourage the customer to come to me and ask for the hardware requirements to host their website? So multiple customers, will be going to godaddy.com or bluehost.com, hostinger.com, or a lot of other website hosting providers that you have. Let's say if I have a coffee shop in Hyderabad, so I have, let's say, 5 to 6 outlets. Don't you think I need a website for my coffee shop now? But I'm not a developer. Let's say I did not studied well, but I have some money for investment. I have set up a coffee shop that has run very well, and I have set up second one, third one, fourth one in different areas in Hyderabad. So do you think at this point of time there is a website that is required for me to showcase and create that branding and go to online business? But I'm not a developer. I don't even know IT. I don't even know anything. So if I buy this server hardware, what I have to do? I have to hire a developer. I have to hire a IT support engineer to create my website, to develop the website, and to host it, and to manage it always. Shall I run coffee shop, or shall I give salaries to the developer and IT support engineer to maintain my website of the coffee shop? Yes, probably I have to focus on coffee shop maintenance only, correct? So what I do, I have a hosting provider in the market called GoDaddy. I'll go there and I'll request that, okay, I need one CPU. I need, let's say, 1 GB RAM. Let's say I need 50 GB storage. And they will also give a default WordPress website. So I should not be a developer to customize my website. So I'll go ahead and take the server hardware, the components on rent, and I'll be paying them on monthly basis. The basic price is 120 rupees per month, I believe, right? So until I use it, I'll have to pay them. And multiple customers can host their multiple websites or databases, whatever it is. So this is the era where we have come up with shared hosting, where one company is buying the huge server hardware and they are encouraging multiple customers throughout the world to come there and to take the server on rent, and you pay until you use or consume the resources for your website only. So if you think you don't need a website, you don't pay the plan, and your website would be coming down and the resources would be taken by the hosting website provider. So what is the difference between the first two and the third one? Here also they are using virtualization technology, but in the first two stages we used to buy the server hardware upfront, but in the third stage we started taking the servers on rent in the virtual environment, in the remote environment. So what is this? This is very cheap, but this is very limited. Well, because if you have multiple customers coming in, obviously this server might reach the capacity and godaddy.com might not have additional capacity. So what they have to do, they have to make a request to HP or Dell and they have to wait until the server comes to their location, and they set up the configuration and they will again make it available to the customers. That's where we are talking about very cheap but very limited. In the current era, so people have come up with cloud computing technologies. So what is happening here, here again, multiple customers. I mean, the customer should not have to have a company, guys, or organization. Even you can go ahead and deploy your infrastructure in cloud environment. So what has happened in the current era is, so why we are talking about cloud computing now? So huge companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google have taken an initiative to buy huge server hardware, guys. So here, this is also a virtual environment, but they have only bought one server. But here, they have bought multiple, some thousands of servers they have bought from the manufacturers like HP, IBM, Hitachi. And what they did, they installed the virtualization software on all the server hardware. And again, they are welcoming the customers to come to take the server on rent and to host the machines or infrastructure that is required. So comparative to three stages, the first three stages, the fourth stage is dead cheap. So here also we are taking the server on rent. But here the beauty is Microsoft is providing us a free subscription. Yes, are we able to watch Movies in OTT platforms like Amazon Prime, Netflix, Z5, let's say AHA, Disney Plus Hotstar, free of cost. Will you be able to watch premium movies free of cost in these OTT platforms?
No,
No, right? So what is needed?
subscription is needed.
Subscription.
Subscription, either a monthly or yearly subscription is needed, correct? So here also you have to take a subscription from Microsoft, but the beauty is Microsoft is giving a free subscription which will be valid for 30 days and which will give you 200 US dollars or 14,500 rupees, Indian rupees as a credit. So without paying anything, you can learn cloud, you can host your infrastructure, and if you like the resource, if you like the infrastructure or cloud of Microsoft, you can go with a paid subscription. You can start paying for the subscription, but you don't pay anything upfront. You first deploy the infrastructure, you use it, you have a billing cycle like credit card, you'll get a bill or invoice, and you have 30 more days to go and pay the bill back, which means you're not paying anything upfront. So you use the resources and you pay for what you use it. No hidden charges, nothing. Microsoft is very open and transparent. They don't charge any hidden charges. So here Microsoft is encouraging multiple customers or organizations right throughout the world to use their infrastructure on rent and to host the infrastructure. So what is this for us? This is very cheap, guys, comparative to on-premises environment. So tomorrow we'll do a demo session on how we can create a virtual machine from Microsoft Azure, and we'll talk about on-premises infrastructure and the cloud. So tomorrow you'll be able to get an understanding as to what I'm talking, why it is cheap compared to the first three stages, right? And why it is so secure. So cloud is super secure, guys. So we spoke about Fortune 500 companies, correct? What are Fortune 500 companies? Can somebody let me know? The very big companies in the world, correct? The first top 500 companies in the world. We call them as Fortune 500 companies, correct? So we should proudly say that out of Fortune, I mean the 500 companies that we have, 95% of the companies are already using Microsoft Azure Cloud. So do you think they are not worried about security? They're storing their data with confident trust. So even we or any startup, any small scale, medium scale company can easily move to cloud and store our data securely. We have a lot of security mechanisms, tools, services that we can go and implement to secure our data. And it is flexible, there is no time limit. At any point of time, you get a request from your customer or client, you go and deploy the infrastructure within fraction of seconds and minutes. So we should not have to wait for hours, days to get the server hardware come to us from the vendor guys. And it is cost effective as I discussed, so it is dead cheap. So why it is cheap will be able to come to know tomorrow. And whatever the configuration that you needed from CPU, RAM, storage, network, you can go ahead and get it from Microsoft. There is no limitation as such. So if you need a high-end configuration machine, yes, you ask Microsoft, they would be able to give it to you. So if you move to cloud within fraction of seconds and minutes, you can deploy, you can create machines, storages, virtual network, lot of things that you can do. That's where people are very crazy in moving to cloud. And Microsoft is investing a lot of money to encourage people like us. Why? Because they're giving a free trial subscription to us where we have 30 days and 14,500 credits where we can go and use them and learn cloud, Microsoft Azure free of cost. So there is not a single rupee that we are going to pay while we are learning cloud. It may be Azure administration or Azure Devops related topics. But when Microsoft is giving free of cost, obviously there are some limitations as well. So we'll talk about those limitations while we are going with them in the further classes. But this is all about the evolution. I believe we might have understood different stages. So the initial two stages where we used to buy the server hardware with upfront cost, but not every customer uses to afford that cost, correct? It might be in lakhs. But the third stage where we have taken the server on rent, but the hardware resources are limited. That's where people have come up with cloud computing. So here the hardware is infinite, I can say. Not even limitation. It is infinite, so you can go ahead and deploy as much as infrastructure that is possible for your business perspective. So while we are doing a demo and doing the practicals on real time from certain services, you'll be able to understand why I'm talking about why people are moving to cloud. But this is the evolution. So any questions from this particular slide? Are you guys slowly understanding what exactly on-premises is, why we are moved to cloud, what are the disadvantages?
Yes.
Okay, so with this, I wanted to stop the session. So tomorrow we will be going with a couple of topics from our day-to-day life to help you guys understand more from the on-premises environment perspective, right? So why? Because before we learn cloud, we need to know what is on-premises, the physical infrastructure that we used to have earlier, and why people are not using that also we have to understand, and why people are moving to cloud. We'll understand it tomorrow with a real-time demo as well. So any questions before I conclude and we can resync tomorrow? Any questions? Any questions? Are we good?
Be good, Kranti.
Yeah, thanks guys. Let's meet tomorrow same time and we'll continue with the basics. Have a great day. Take care.
Thanks, Kranti. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.